Collectively, we have discharged a total of 24 patients from the facility at Yaba. That includes one patient that was evacuated to the United States. As of today, we discharged 4 new patients. 4 more patients were discharged today. That included 3 females and 1 male. Of the 3 females, 1 was a girl child, the age of 6 weeks. Well, when she was admitted, she was 6 weeks, so she's 8 weeks now. Both mother and child are doing well, recovered, fully recovered, and discharged. Yesterday, we diagnosed 16 new patients. So in total, we discharged 15 over the last 2 days, and yesterday we diagnosed 16 new patients. The principle that we're trying to implement is the concept of flattening the curve. Essentially, that means that we're trying to reduce the speed at which we get new patients. That allows us the time and the space to accommodate patients that may have moderate to severe disease. At the moment, most of our patients have had mild disease, some bordering on moderate. We have had no deaths, and our patients seem to be profiling well and spending between 1 to 2 weeks on admission before they are discharged when their tests are negative. Our sum total of confirmed cases is 98 to date. 98. That's our sum total of confirmed cases in Lagos. Out of those 98, we still have 74 active cases. In other words, they have not turned negative yet. And we have 24 that have fully recovered and discharged. The local government that has the highest number of confirmed cases is Etiosa with 47, followed by Ikeja with 24, and Lagos mainland with 11. Alimosho, Agege, and Ikorodu have the lowest number of confirmed cases, with 1 in each of those local government areas. So once again, Etiosa has the highest number of confirmed cases at 47, Ikeja 24, and Lagos mainland 11. The peak of the age group is between 30 and 59. So we're seeing most of our cases between the age of 30 and 59. We have 2 patients over the age of 60 and 2 patients over the age of 70. We have 6 patients between 10 and 19. Majority of our patients are male, with 64% male and 36% female. 64% male, 36% female. Between the first 4 weeks of the outbreak in Lagos, 82% of the cases were imported, with 12% contacts of the imported cases. In the last week, the ratio has changed. the number of imported cases has decreased, and we're now seeing an increasing number of patients that don't have a travel history. So 68% imported in the last week, and 32% as a result of local transmission. So that means that the demography of the infection is changing. We are no longer seeing imported cases because of the limitations of movement, and we're seeing more transmission within the community. When we're looking at nationality, 91% of our cases are Nigerians and 9% are foreign nationals. So at the moment, we're still operating from the Yaba mainland hospital, the infectious disease hospital in Yaba. We still have adequate bed space because as we admit, we are also discharging. So we have we've reached about 70% capacity at the Yaba hospital. We are looking to open the Bagada isolation hospital next week. And we're also looking to commission the Onikon tent at the Onikon Stadium next week. So that will bring into commission 2 more isolation facilities, which will give us a total bed space, isolation bed space of about 300. After that, there are other projects that will be commissioned, and we're looking at a total of 6 isolation facilities in the next month. We're carrying on training on a weekly basis because we need the medical personnel that are going to man these additional isolation facilities. And we're training both doctors, nurses, hygienists, and general ward attendants. And that training is carrying on as we speak. In fact, in this hospital right now, there's a training session going on. So, access to personal protection equipment, we have adequate stocks. Our testing has been increased. We're now testing at 3 sites independently. That is the Infectious Disease Hospital, the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, and the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research. And we're testing between 200 and 300 tests a day. So we're ramping up capacity across the board. The impact of social distancing plus our contact tracing and isolation of positive cases seems to be slowing down the steep of the curve. In other words, we are achieving some degree of bending the curve or flattening the curve. Our mathematical model, if we had not carried out any of these 2 interventions, would have shown a very steep rise in cases. But right now, we're averaging between 6 and sometimes 10 and sometimes 15 cases per day. We would have been seeing a lot more cases per day had these interventions not been put in place. So our modeling suggests that the graph is flattening, and that is giving us the time to put certain things in place and to be able to accommodate most of our patients. The profile of our patients still remains mild, some few moderate, and very few severe. And so far, we have had no mortality in Lagos. We have had 100% recovery out of 24 patients that have been discharged. Thank you very much.
Can we please appreciate the Honorable Commissioner once again, please? Gentlemen of the press, I believe we have 1 or 2 questions to ask.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Theophilus Eloma from TBC News. I want to ask, with all of this that you have enumerated, is there hope that we're going to have 100% discharge rate very soon, or a situation whereby the disease of the virus will be eliminated totally in Lagos?
So my name is Aminat Elegushi from Lagos Television. My question is, from the cases we have, you said we have 32% of local transmission. Are they basically local transmission from the tracing list we have that have contact with the confirmed cases, or community transmission that do not have any traces with confirmed cases before? Thank you.
Okay, then the last one for now.
Yeah, my name is Olu Ojo. I report for TV 360. Recently, Chairman of the Referral Association of one of the sent out text message to the resident. And I'd like to read. This is to inform you that there is a confirmed case of coronavirus in a neighboring community, Nowera. The patient was taken to the health center when the NCDC and Lagos ambulance was unavailable to locate her. She was returned to her residence in a tricycle and eventually died. As you can imagine, many people came in contact with the patient and the risk of come to the neighborhood group. So, I just want you to speak on this and to confirm it. Thank you.
Okay, let's take this last one.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Tayo Olongyomi. My name is Tayo Olongyomi from Radio Lagos Equation. I want to know how many people we are still tracing, how many contacts we are still tracing in Lagos State as regard the people who had contact with the coronavirus patient in the state.
Another commissioner, sir.
So as I explained before, the medical profile of patients with coronavirus is very wide. You see some infections that are asymptomatic. In other words, you'll be infected and you will not even know that you're infected. There are some that will be infected and you have a very mild disease. So you might have a fever and a mild cough, or some body pains. You may be infected and have moderate disease. In other words, you are feeling generally unwell, weak, high fever, prolonged fever, loss of appetite, coughing. And then the severe cases where it affects the organs, particularly the lungs, you might experience difficulty breathing. And those are the patients that we describe as critical, because without support, they may deteriorate. And it is out of this group that we tend to see the deaths. Right now in Lagos, although it's still a numbers game, we are just about hitting the 100 mark. We have only seen 1 or 2 patients that are in what we would describe the moderate to severe range. In other words, they have difficulty breathing. And we're supporting them with oxygen. If that doesn't work, we may have to ventilate them. But right now, they are stable on oxygen. And so it leaves the majority of patients are asymptomatic, mild or moderate, and they just require gentle, supportive care. The reason they're in hospital is because we're isolating them for community. Otherwise, normally, they would not require admission. As our numbers increase, we may see some more critical cases, and of those critical cases, as you see on the television around the world, some patients may deteriorate beyond the point that we can salvage them, and that results in death. So far, we have not seen that picture yet in Lagos State. So our profile, from the numbers we have, we don't have many numbers, like Europe, that have thousands and thousands of cases, so it is difficult for us to deduce statistically, but based on what we're seeing, it appears we generally have a mild to moderate disease profile for COVID-19 illness. Elimination of the outbreak, well, as you can see, all outbreaks eventually burn out. So an infection cannot keep going. It runs out of victims. And once it has passed through a community, it will stop infecting because people will have developed immunity to the infection. So an outbreak doesn't just keep going. It runs out of persons that it can infect, which is why social distancing is so effective, because we accelerate the point at which the virus can no longer infect people without the virus having infected the entire community. It appears now that we're seeing more local transmission since we don't have imported cases anymore. The first phase of that was contacts with the imported cases, and now we're seeing random cases in society, which means that they are third or fourth or fifth generation transmission, removed from the contact of the imported case. That case in Olowora turned out not to be related to coronavirus. The number of cases, contact tracing that we're doing at the moment is changing every day, because people are coming off the list and some people are coming on the list. But as of the last count yesterday, we were contact tracing 2,450. So that's answering all your questions.
Honourable Commissioner, sir, I believe we still have more questions. Okay.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Mary Alalesu from Channels Television. For those cases you describe as moderate to severe, do you have ventilators for them? And you mentioned the cases going up, which is understandable. You still have contacts and some become positive of that list. If you do have more severe cases, are you ready to ventilate all of them? Will they die for lack of equipment, or just because they just deteriorated of themselves? Then, concerning the social distancing and lockdown, we do see people who are not supposed to be moving around and congregating in large numbers. It has reduced, but there are pockets of those. Are there going to be more measures to reduce the numbers of people hanging around, since this is what seems to flatten the curve? And third, can you predict for us, foresee a time, what time it will be when we stop having new cases, new positives? Thank you.
Questions? Honourable Commissioner, sir, we can take that, sir.
So the moderate to severe cases that require some kind of respiratory support, in other words, they are not able to breathe on their own with room air, we first support them with oxygen. So that improves the ability for them to absorb the oxygen. And those that will require more than that will require ventilation. We have 5 ventilators in Yaba. We have another 10 in Onikon. We have about 6 at Lasuth. So far, we have at our disposal about 20 ventilators. We have some more ventilators in Bagada, and as they're in the private sector, there are up to 20 ventilators. So since we're not seeing many patients that require ventilation, we certainly have enough ventilation power in Lagos right now for the profile of disease that we're seeing. If we start to see more and more cases requiring ventilation, then we will recruit more ventilators into the system. So regarding the social distancing, I mean, there's a difference between social distancing and lockdown. So social distancing is just ensuring that there's no transmission within community. So if you socially distance, the virus has no opportunity to move from one individual to another. If you lock down, you are increasing the ability of people not to move around. In other words, you are slowing down the random opportunity for people to interact with each other, but more importantly, you are slowing down the movement of people out of a geographical zone. So the idea of the lockdown, in addition to social distancing, was to ensure that there is no movement between states, so that where the epicenters are do not have the opportunity for persons who are infected to move to other states that have lower cases. So that will slow down the outbreak in other states that have so far very low numbers. So it confines the epicenters at the moment to Lagos, Abuja, and it seems Osun is beginning to see a higher number of cases. So those 3 areas in Nigeria seem to be the epicenters in that order. When we stop seeing new cases, that will indicate that the outbreak is about to burn out. So at the moment, we're still seeing a handful of cases every day. It seems to be increasing slightly, but as I said, we had anticipated a much larger number of new cases every day. So we're seeing a controllable number of cases. So we believe that our modeling indicates that the graph is beginning to flatten, but we're still seeing new cases every day. So we have not reached our peak, but we are prolonging the time till we reach our peak, which is a good thing for us because it gives us time to accommodate new cases. It gives us time to train. It gives us time to analyze the projectile and to put different policies in place.
Any more questions, please?
My name is Kasim from PM. I want to ask the commissioner. The issue of social distancing, I was calling this morning around Abuja, Air Corridor. In fact, I just saw a crowd, people moving around, about, and so on. And then some markets open, I think Lagos market. The crowd there is so massive, and people are choked. So I think that's another means of spreading the virus. So I don't know what you are doing. I mean, why you allow markets to open at this time when we talk about social distances and so on.
Okay, yeah. My question goes to the Commissioner for Information. Several messages are flying around the social media. which majority of them, for those of us that are journalists here, we know are not true. But please, what is the ministry doing to debunk all of these things? Because I know people are at home now, they pay more attention to their phones and they read everything that is coming up on social media. So I don't know what the other commissioner is doing to ensure that right information is being passed to the public and that most of these things are being debunked. A good example is the one someone just talked about, the one in the lower. And when I got the message, my first thing was, where did they confirm the case? Was COVID-19. So please, sir, I would like you to emphasize on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. Since this coronavirus outbreak, since it hit us here in Lagos, every statement that we have issued, we have told the public that they should mind and be wary of any information they get on the social media. And we have warned our people that this is not the time for frivolities, and that this is the time for soberness. This is the time for us to be serious about the kind of information we get and the kind of information that we consume. And as I speak with you, the members of our enlightenment team, they are not resting. They are going from town to town, from place to place, telling people to be wary of the social media, and they should not consume any information that seems to be terrible, that seems to be panicky, that seems to be scary to our people. We have channels of communicating with the people, and anything that is serious that we need the people to know, we always tell them how to know it. We have radio stations, we have newspapers, even on the social media, we are all over the place, and people should please disregard such information as the one that you spoke of in Bagada or wherever. Please, I use this opportunity to tell Lagosians that there are good channels of information and they should follow those channels. And those who are pushing negative information to scare our people on the social media, they should desist from doing so. This is not the time for frivolities. It's a time for soberness and time for people to take responsibility. It is a thing that concerns all of us. It's a calamity against humanity. We have to be very careful about what we say. We should not compound the problem and make everything more complex by pushing out false information. Thank you.
Honourable Commissioner, sir, before leaving, I believe we still have information question in respect of some areas that are not observing this social distancing. So what do you have to say towards that, sir?
Again, I would like to urge our people to take responsibility. If the government is asking us to observe social distancing, that has proved, it's been proven all over the world that this is a way that we can push back, that we can stave off a massive attack of coronavirus. And people should please embrace this and practice it and take it to heart that we don't need to gather now for whatever reason. We should observe the rule of hygiene. We should observe a social distancing so that this disease can be stopped in its deadly track. So I will urge our people to take it to heart. They should be serious about it. They should be sober about it. And they should know that this is the only way we can stop this disease now. It has no drug, it has no vaccine, it has no palliative. So, ladies and gentlemen, I use this opportunity to urge Lagosians to please embrace social distancing. This is the only thing that we can do now to help ourselves and to help humanity. Thank you.
Sir, I'm clear. I've said that today that you have markets opening and the crowd is so massive and there is no place of social distancing. What, I mean,
that is why we are saying what we are saying now. The government has created 50 markets, neighborhood markets. This is a part of the thing that we are doing, but these markets don't run every day. They run every other day. If you run one today, you don't run another tomorrow, you run the next day. And this is an idea that was brought about in the thinking that people will be able to go to markets in their neighborhoods and that they don't have to travel far to be able to get whatever they want to get. So if these markets are in the neighborhoods, people should not panic to rush to markets to buy things. The federal government has said between 10 o'clock and 2 p.m. that people can't go and shop for food. So there is no need for anybody to panic, to rush to the markets. And that does not mean security agents should brutalize people, because some people, I have heard people say that that is the only language that our people understand. I do not think so. Our people are responsible, and this is the time for them to show that responsibility so that they don't go and crowd around markets. There is no need to go and do panic buying. Markets will open every day, as the federal government has said, between 10 and 2 p.m. And our own neighborhood markets, 50 of them, created all over Lagos, in schools that we have shut down. They are so large enough that people don't need to crowd together. They don't need to mass. They don't need to bond together. The markets they are spaces. So people should just take advantage of them and not rush to the traditional markets and then crowd there and compound the problem we are trying to solve.